All right, it's time for another edition of the PulseWave Report with yours truly, Dex the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave Price Trigger Reports. Ladies and gentlemen, I owe you an apology. I am extremely late this morning. Had quite a few things going on, things I had to deal with, and there were some system issues. So I was tackling a few system issues because, my first and foremost job is to make sure the pulse waves are on and popping. Nothing else matters. It's about these pulse waves. We got to make sure our clients, customers are situated and have the most up-to-date data as possible. So that's what I do. And everything else takes a back seat to that. So if you see me not be able to do a live for, or whatever, miss a day, miss a live session, it's because I'm usually in the lab, just so you know that. I put a lot of work into producing the daily Pulse Wave reports, and we're producing thousands of reports. And that takes a heck of a lot of doing on my part. All right, so please forgive me if I'm running late or if I'm tardy or if I don't even get a chance to get around to doing it. I have to do what I have to do. All right, so with all that being said, go ahead and smash that like button. You know what it is. Let me know that you guys do care and you want me to continue to hit you with these reports. Let me know I'm not wasting my time and energy that could be put somewhere else if that is the case. All right, so we got Bitcoin hitting 50,000 today. All right. So far, the intraday high on the futures contract is 48,885. Current trade is 47,400. So Bitcoin is continuing to move and do exactly as it is expected to do. I told you it was going to hit 50,000, and it's hitting 50,000. So I'm not surprised. All right. So with that being said, we do what we do, and we keep it pushing. That's why you need these reports, so you can know what's going on. All right, a couple things I'm going to talk to you guys about today, and we're going to try to make this short and sweet. So I need to pause because I'm having issues. So hold on one second. All right, I want to take this opportunity just to look at a couple of things here. Now, of course, we deal with the charts in the evening session. That's what we do. But during the day session, we look at other things. So just hold on a quick second. Seems like every time I want to go live, I have a little bit of interruption. So just hold on a second here. All right, I'm going to talk to you about a few things. And it's not going to be smooth. It's just, on this channel, I try to deal with things that are important. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. There was a very interesting reflective piece done on today's political climate. And I think it's very eye-opening. Very, very eye-opening. I think we still suffer in the United States of America with short-term memory loss. And because of that, we've allowed revisionist history to take part. And that is a shame. We now have an electorate that is basically turned its back on the country and the people that they're supposed to represent. And that includes the president, our current president. That includes the Senate, includes the House, and to some degree, even the Supreme Court. Yeah. You see, ladies and gentlemen, a civilization, you know that a civilization is in peril when its leaders lose faith in it. And I think it has become clear that our leaders of today have lost faith in this country. Now, you've heard it said by me and others on social media for the past decade or so, explaining to you the difference between the blue and the red, how there really is no blue and red. They're both on the same team, just wearing different practice jerseys so you can tell them apart when they're scrimmaging in front of an audience. But behind closed doors, they make plays and they work off of the same playbook. All right? And you need to know this. You need to get that through your head. There is no such thing as Democrat and Republican. There is no such thing as blue and red. You're just looking at the same team that are wearing different color practice jerseys. So on the field, from an onlooker looking in, on the outside looking in, who doesn't know what's going on, you would think that there's a game taking place between two different teams. But behind closed doors, when they go into the locker room, the coach is giving them the same playbook. They're on the same team. They have the same goals. They have the same agenda. But for the spectators, it would appear that they're in a battle, a heated battle, locked in battle. And nothing could be further from the truth. Let's just look at things from a historical perspective when we talk about the red and the blue. And that is what it is. And I'm going to give you an added plus. Let's start this conversation off with just giving you a little bit of background behind the scenes that you may not have been privy to, may not have even occurred to you. But like I told you, the markets speak. The market has a language that it speaks. And it speaks it rather plainly, rather clearly, if you are astute enough to listen and know what to listen for. Case in point, from a pure market perspective, we can see the visual delineations between the two parties, Democrat and Republican. You'll notice that whenever a Republican has been in office in the past 2 decades, certain things will occur. You also notice when a Democrat or Republican is in office in these last 2 decades, there is a repetitive pattern. Now, there's an old saying that once is a coincidence, twice is a pattern, and 3 times is enemy action. So I'll let you decide and be the judge as to the information that I'm going to present to you today. Let's start off with the Republicans, the Republican Party, as it has to do with the markets. If you look in the past 20 to 30 years. We're only going to go back 20 to 30 years. I think that's all. That's as far back as we really need to go for this illustration. So if you go back over the last 30 years, you will notice that we have had bull market rallies during both Democrat and Republican offices. The markets have rallied during a Democratic administration as well as a Republican administration. These are facts, and you cannot deny them because they are part of history. But something else is also a pattern based on whether we have a Democrat or Republican in office. Let's start with George Bush, the son, not the senior. We're going to start with the son. You know what? Take that back. Let's start with the senior. Let's start with the senior. What is he known for? What is Senior Bush known for? Well, as you know, in 1990, we had the first Gulf War. That was a war fought over natural resources. But which resources are you referring to? I am referring to the resource of crude oil. It was a war fought over oil. Whenever a Republican is in office, you can always anticipate and expect for there to be some type of market shenanigans regarding crude oil futures. This is a repetitive pattern, and it happens whenever a Republican sitting president is in office. It does not happen when a Democrat is in office. Something else happens when a Democrat is in office, which is different than when there's a Republican in office. So when Bush was in office in 1990, we had the Gulf War, the war being fought over oil. As a result of that, at the time, crude oil futures jumped to $40 a barrel, which at the time was considered unheard of supernatural paranormal activity in the market. Next, what do we have? We had this son as president. We're skipping over Clinton for now. We're going to go with Bush 2. When Bush 2 was in office, what did we have, ladies and gentlemen? We had another crude oil futures fiasco. This time, it didn't go to $40 a barrel. They took it to $150 a barrel. That's right, under Bush's watch. So we have two Republican situations that I just presented to you, and we have two crude oil futures shenanigans that happened on their watch. Let's fast forward to the next Republican president. Enter Mr. Trump. On Trump's watch in 2020, we had another crude oil futures debacle. Which was it? We took crude oil futures not to $40 a barrel, not to $150 a barrel, not even $300. What did we do? We took it to negative 100. Something, again, never ever heard of or seen or fathomed in U.S. history. Every time there is a Republican sitting president, there will be a debacle in the crude oil futures market. Once is a coincidence, twice is a pattern, 3 times is enemy action. But what about a sitting Democratic president? What happens in the markets when there is a Democratic president sitting in the office? What happens? We have another strange event that happens under the Democrat in office. No. It's not a crude oil future shenanigan. It's called a flash crash. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever there is a sitting Democratic president, we have a flash crash, whether it's the market in its entirety or it's relegated to a particular stock or commodity, etc., etc. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is what happens under a Democratic president. When Clinton was in office, do you recall the ridiculous market conditions that we found ourselves in? Anything that had the word .com or .net after it or .org, you fill in the blank, that stock was moving like GameStop. It moved like GameStop. You see, the first time we saw GameStop was in the 1990s. I told you I physically watched Yahoo go from 30 to 330 days. Well, that was under a Democratic administration. You saw that happen again under a Democratic administration just this year. We have a sitting Democratic president who haven't been in office 5 minutes, and yet we have GameStop going from $20 to over $500 a share. Now, of course, each time there's a flash crash in the market or some type of anomaly like that, they want to blame a fat finger trader. They want to blame the speculators. It's what you fill in the blank. Guess who else blamed the speculators when they got in office? That's right. It was your boy, dun, 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 Obama. Every other word that came out of his mouth was speculators. Speculators, speculators, speculators. The attack on the speculators. Whenever there's a Democratic president in office, you can expect that the retail specs will be blamed for whatever flash crash situation happens. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Flash crashes just don't bring prices down. You can have a flash up too, where markets go from 0 to 300 in a blink of an eye. That is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. I present these things to you today because I want you to think about it as we continue. Have you ever seen to be scratching your head when Republicans vote for more welfare spending? Do you wonder why American wars always seem to start under Democrats? During the aftermath of the presidential election, did it anger you that long-serving Republicans refused to take President Trump's complaints about the election seriously? Did their final betrayal of him hit you like a punch to the solar plexus, knocking all the wind out of your chest? I can honestly say none of this surprised me at all, and I know you weren't surprised either if you've been following this channel. It didn't shock you. There is no divide between the two parties in D.C. The GOP and the DNC are, in the great words of libertarian commentator Tom Woods, two wings of the same bird of prey. And one of the very best things that has come about from this election cycle, where clear and pervasive voter fraud occurred, is that so many more people have come to that same conclusion. If you're one of them, welcome to today's live. This is a situation, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to peel back the layers of the onion. The false paradigm of false opposites. The rank and file Republicans are either too weak to compromise or just plain in it for themselves to do anything but put up a token resistance on the road to serfdom described by F.A. Hayek more than 70 years ago. The leadership, however, of both parties are perfectly aligned and only pretend to fight in public. This is why Mitch McConnell makes the mistakes he makes. In fact, it's why Mitch McConnell is still in a leadership position in the GOP, to ensure that no major policy program is curtailed. You didn't think of it that way, did you? Come on now, you had to have known about his implicity for years. The GOP was the false or controlled opposition to the Democrats who set the agenda the people who stand behind them wanted them to set in the first place. Now, in a post-COVID world, if there's really such a thing, I don't think there will ever be a post-COVID world because we still will be suffering from all the rules and regulations and laws passed during the COVID. We can see their plan clearly, and it is a frightening plan. The slow realization that we don't really control Washington lay dormant until awakened by Ron Paul back in 2008. It led to the Trump revolution in 2016. A lot of people understood that there was something terribly wrong in Washington, but like Trump, didn't realize just how bad things really were. There was a certain naivete in both the Bernie brothers on the left and the MAGA dudes on the right. They both yearned for an America that gave them a fair shake. They didn't pile burdens on guilt, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Both groups believed that the system of America still, at its core, worked in their favor. That if they just picked a champion and made their voices loud enough, the polls in D.C. would have to listen to them. Or in this case, just start a whole bunch of riots and protests. And then take pictures of yourselves on one knee with your fist in the air. That'll get it. That'll make it work. They think that people are dumb. They think that people are stupid. That's why they do the things that they do. And because no one checks them on it. Think about it. This is a situation, ladies and gentlemen, that is getting out of hand. And I don't think it's going to stop. It is not going to stop anytime soon. They have a very powerful engine behind them. It's called the central banks and the mass media that will do their bidding for them. And there's nothing you can really do, you or I, to get in their way. Because you don't have the podium. They do. They do. They control all of that. They control what you hear, what you see, and what you think, because they also control Hollywood. That's right. This is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to end badly on multiple counts because the people that are in power are not the people that you elected into office. The people in power are the people behind the people in office. The people you elect to office are nothing but mere puppets of the establishment order that got them elected in the first place. It was not your vote that got them elected. It was the powers behind the power that you don't see. I see you in the live stream, Martin958. The answer to your question is no. I covered that, and there is no collapse. And the follow-up documentary to that documentary called The Fed versus Bitcoin and the Central Banks versus the Blockchain. Both of them are still up on the PulseWave channel here on YouTube. So no, they're not printing money in fiat to buy crypto. They've already bought crypto. The Feds have been operating in the crypto market since 2016 when I made those documentaries exposing them doing so. I was called a nut at the time. No one believed me, said I didn't know what I was talking about. But now where are those people today? Where are all my naysayers today? They've run and hide. They're in a cave somewhere. All right. So this divide is what we need to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. We should not be caught up by red and blue. We should be caught up by truth and facts. That is what matters, truth and facts. All right? Nothing else matters except for truth and facts. If you lack truth and facts, then you have nothing. And nothing else matters after that. So I'm really just trying to explain that. All right. With that being said, I want to leave you guys with this. Just because a market is in a bull market does not mean that it's going to maintain a bull market. But I'm going to tell you this, though. Since in the eyes of the powers that be, Bitcoin is the new gold, they're not going to allow Bitcoin to fail. So you need to understand that. All right. Bitcoin is not going to fail. They're not going to let it. They have too much interest already into the Bitcoin. They even made Bitcoin futures contracts. They're not going to waste their time creating a futures contract for something that's going to go away. There hasn't been a futures contract that has been taken off the board in quite some time. The last one happened in 2008. They just made it not available to retail specs. That's all that is. But the last time they actually canceled a market in the futures market, I believe, if my memory serves me correct, you historians out there can correct me, I think it was the egg market. There used to be an egg futures market, and now that doesn't exist anymore. Pork belly market still exists, but you as a retail spec doesn't have access to that. You can't trade it. If you're a U.S. citizen, you can forget it. You're not trading it. Overseas, you guys may be given access to some spot markets and things like that, but here in the States, that's not possible. They made it so that you can't trade spot anything in the States. We used to be able to trade spot metals here in the States, but now you can't do that anymore either. So they're not going to let Bitcoin fail. There hasn't been a failed commodity futures product since eggs, and that was before my time. So I do not believe they will let Bitcoin fail. So yes, it can be volatile. They can let it drop precipitously, but it's not going to go to zero. Bitcoin is not going away. They've already chosen Bitcoin as their benchmark. Whether the Bitcoin, they'll use that and come in and control it and make it replace the dollar or whatever they're going to do, I don't know. All I know is that they will be putting the U.S. dollar on a central bank, Fed blockchain controlled by them. And at some point when they're ready, they're going to drop the hammer and they're going to make it so that you can only operate on their platforms if you want to have access to certain things. As it stands right now, Bitcoin is still decentralized per se, but not really anymore because of the futures contract. So Bitcoin has already been adopted by the institutions and by governments worldwide on the hush hush at first, but now they're starting to just come out with it and say, yeah, we down with the Bitcoin, so what? It didn't used to always be popular to do so, but now it is. So people are sticking their chest out and saying, yeah, we roll with the Bitcoin, so what? So at some point, you're going to see the wide adoption of it. You'll be able to buy more things with it. Like I said, have you noticed that you can buy more things with Bitcoin than you can with gold or silver? I can't buy nothing with my gold and silver coins, but I can sure enough buy a lot of things with my Bitcoin. Didn't Tesla just announce that he wanted to make it so that you can actually buy a Tesla vehicle with Bitcoin? So that means you'll be able to buy a car now with Bitcoin. I still cannot buy a car with gold and silver, but I can buy a car with Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin becomes adopted more and more, you will see, like I said, at some point, I don't know how soon this will happen, but at some point, they are going to change the markets as far as the equity market as we know it. And it will too be probably put on a blockchain, and you'll be able to buy, increments of a stock. So stocks will probably have, 8 or 9 decimal places to the right, just like Bitcoin does. So with $20, I can actually participate in Bitcoin right now. If you got 20 bucks, you can literally buy some Bitcoin. You can buy $20 worth of a $50,000 Bitcoin. And as Bitcoin continues to move higher, so will your $20 investment. All right. You can't do that right now in the stock market. I can't buy a $3,000 Amazon stock. They won't let me buy pieces of it. But once they put it on the blockchain, and I do believe that equities will eventually be on the blockchain and you will be able to buy fragments of them. They're going to figure out a way to do it. Trust and believe me. People didn't think it was going to happen when stocks got off of the fractional system and went to digits and went to decimal places. Putting stocks on the decimal system and taking it off of the fractional system was the first step. They did that because of the advent. They saw the forthcoming future. They knew what they wanted to do. They knew that computers were going to be the new advent coming. And they knew, too, that you would be able to monetize stocks the same way you do Bitcoin or any other altcoin for that matter. So in the future, I do believe that equities will be on a blockchain and you'll be able to buy pieces of it just like you do with altcoins and Bitcoin. And I wouldn't be surprised if they even start doing it with futures. And they start doing it with forex. Anything that's a tradable market. Because it behooves them to do it. Then you got more money now flowing into the market. There's a downside with this though. I'm afraid that when that day does come, it may take away all the volatility in the market. It could. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we're a long way off. Don't get me wrong. I think we're like 30 years off from that. But when it does happen, it may take away the volatility in the markets. And we could have, a 1980s stock market. I don't mean the 87 part. Take 87 out of it. We could have a 70s and 80s type style market where, your blue chips really don't move. Your blue chips that pay dividends, they don't really move. They're safe. They have very little movement. If you were to look at those historical charts on McDonald's and Philip Morris, you'll see, man, those stocks, their chart patterns look like flat lines. I think McDonald's stayed $25 for like 20 years or something like that. It was crazy. They'll move like a stable coin moves today. Put it that way. So I'm just saying, man, I think this is happening. I think this is going to happen. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but I think that is the trajectory that the world is headed in. So, that's just something to think about as we move forward. It makes a lot of sense when you really break it down and look at it. It makes a lot of sense. And you can see why we will be going in that direction. Like I said, it makes a lot of sense when you break it down and look at it. It makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't we? I'm just saying. I mean, the handwriting's on the wall. And I know whenever I say things, people don't take it seriously. They don't listen. They don't listen. Not at all. It's only valid when someone else says it. So if CNBC comes on and says what I just finished saying to you in a special piece this evening or whatever, or next week or next month or next year, they'll get all the credit for it because they, of course, said it. No one hears me when I say it because I'm just a little small channel here on YouTube, just a little teeny tiny channel here on cyberspace. But I am quite prolific, I do believe. I think my track record speaks for itself. But I'm letting you know that that's what's coming. That is the plan that they are working on. That is the plan that they are working toward. And I do not think anything is going to change that. All right? It would take a lot to change the trajectory that we're on. There's a lot of things that are kind of questionable that we're seeing right now. And I'm just like I said, I do believe that there are a lot of things that are coming that our government's been prepping for that they have not told the general public and would never admit to it and tell the general public. People always think, well, if it was something really important, I'm sure the government would tell us, and that's not true. You've seen it. If you've seen it in action, just stop and think of the times that you know of where they have left you in the lurch, left you hanging. They ain't told you nothing, and their rationale behind not telling the American people the truth is, oh, we don't want to panic anyone. And then that is like the lamest thing that I've ever heard. How can not warning me be beneficial? They're only thinking about themselves, is really what it boils down to, and getting them and their loved ones to safety. That's all that matters. They don't care about you. All right? They don't care about you. Michael Jackson was right. They don't care about us. All right? They're not going to tell you. They're going to leave you to fend for yourself when stuff hits the fan. That's always been the plan. That's always been their plan. And they say, well, because we don't want to cause panic and rioting in the street. Since when did you care about rioting in the street when all last year you allowed Black Lives Matter and Antifa to riot in the streets unchallenged? You allowed them to riot for an entire year unchallenged. What does that tell you? So do not think that they're here to help you. They're not. They're not going to tell you anything. Another lame thing that they say, well, the reason why we're not going to tell you about aliens and how, the UFO technology is real is because we don't want to upset, religion. Since when did the federal government care about religion? They haven't cared about religion in a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, they label religions as pretty much white-wing terrorist groups, just so you know that. They see Christianity as a threat. They see Judaism as a threat. They see Islam as a threat. You need to know that. They have that written in black and white. They see you as a threat. You are a cult to them. World religions is a cult to them, a terrorist organization. They have never liked religion. They do not care about religion. That is not the reason why they're not telling you about UFOs. All right? That is not the reason. They don't want you to know what kind of technology they have developed and what they've been working with. That's why they never come forward and confirmed UFOs. If anything, they have spent time, energy, and money debunking UFOs, a swamp gas or some type of balloons or lanterns flying in the sky or kites or locusts or dodo birds flying in the air, whatever. Whatever they think the American people will digest, that's what they'll tell you it is. Whatever they think they can get you to believe, that's what they'll tell you it is. And nothing more. Well, how do you explain them releasing, video footage and stuff of UFOs? Now they're admitting that UFOs exist. That's a political power move. See, as long as you're focusing on that nonsense, you're not focused on everything else. You don't see them cleaning out everything. You don't see them moving all the furniture out the house. They got you busy looking at the sky, so you're not looking on the earth. You don't see them moving out in the middle of the night. Your neighbor, your government, i.e. your neighbor, is moving out in the middle of the night while you sleep, while you sky watching. He's moving piece by piece of furniture out of the house, cleaning out the attic, cleaning out the storage unit, cleaning out the parking garage. By the time you realize that he's already stepped, he's out, he moved out, he's gone, moved his family to safety, and you still sky watching, talking about, ooh, aliens, alien life, and they laughing at you, calling you a buster, calling you stupid, ignorant, calling you Muppets. And that's the same government you believe is trying to protect your religion. Why do you think the government would try to protect something that they themselves believe is false and hate and label as terrorists and cult? You need to think about that. They've been watching you since COINTELPRO. And you think they care about your religion? Well, we don't want to upset your religion. That right there should be an offense to you, because they're saying your religion is not real. They're saying it's fake and stupid. That's why they don't want to tell you about, the UFOs, because then it would upset you. It would upset your false religion. That's basically what they're saying, which also shows their ignorance of God's word. But that's another discussion. Even if there were little green men running around, it would not upset what God has already revealed in his word. But again, that's a whole nother discussion. So I just wanted to put y'all up on game, let you know what's going down. And don't be fooled by what you see. And like I showed you in our charting segment, there is a danger zone to watch for in the Bitcoin. I told you it was going to go to 50. All right. But now it's at the crossroad area of having to back and fill these gaps. So you need to be very careful, and you need to take your profits. Okay? Don't get destroyed. Because when these markets come down, and they will come down, make no mistake about that. The down moves are always way more brutal than the up moves. Don't ever forget that. Sell-offs come fast and furious, a lot faster than rallies. And I've seen some monster rallies in my day. All right, so I just want to put y'all up on game, man. Tonight's chart segment should be rather interesting. I'll be watching to see how these markets close, because closing is just as important, if not more important, than how markets trade during the day. It's that close that makes all the difference. An opening is one thing, but a close is a whole nother animal. Markets do need to close at certain levels and certain zones in order to not be invalidated. So a lot of work still has to be done in these markets. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. I don't want y'all to get it twisted. All right? Markets are still not out of the woods yet. Even though there's a lot of Fed money printing, chasing these markets and propping them up, the Fed can only do but so much. I can recall times in the past where the Fed would announce a rate cut and the market would crash. You would think the market would rally off of that, but I've seen the market fall on rate cuts. All right? And rally on interest rates increases. So don't be fooled by any of that, man. Markets do go up, but they also come down. And that's what you need to be careful of. That's why we teach you the POP method, so that you can manage your open positions the right way and not allow the market to get away from you. All right? Be careful out there. Make that money. Take that money. You will never go broke taking profits. Always remember that. And with that being said, smash the like button. You know what it is. Bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I am out. Peace.